welcome to the Coffee with Columnist. Thank you for joining me. I heard it said in early 2020 when COVID-19 first sort of struck and we all began to take it seriously, and Ireland went into its first lockdown almost a year ago now in March 2020. We're now heading into our third lockdown here in Ireland as we enter the new year, January 2021. But I heard it said that we're all in the same boat together, and it sort of made sense, and I believed that for a while. And then as time went on, I heard somebody else say, and I thought it was a much better description, we're not all in the same boat together. We're all in the same storm together. But many of us are experiencing that same storm from very different vantage points. Some, metaphorically speaking, from the vantage point of a cruise liner, and others from the vantage point of perhaps a leaky bathtub. I think that's a very real description of what's going on in Ireland today and perhaps in the world today. I was on a Zoom call during the week with a global network called Tangible, run by a great guy called Raymond Sexton. Raymond, originally from Limerick, is living in Melbourne, and he's got this wonderful network built up over the years, over many years, largely headed, I suppose, or weighted by the Irish diaspora globally. And I was on this call the other evening, I should say, 10 p.m. to midnight Irish time. And there were some people on the call from the States, some people on the call from Australia, some people on the call from the UK and Ireland and so on. And somebody said there that in California, as we speak, paramedics are told, if they get called to a COVID case, they're told to make a judgment call as to whether that individual will likely survive or not, were they to be brought to hospital. And if the paramedics believe that the victim may not survive, well, then they're instructed to leave them there. That's shocking. That's absolutely shocking in this day and age, 2021. And it's akin to wartime. My mother has been saying for some time now through 2020, she's 82 and hale and hearty, thank goodness, but she's been saying for some time that COVID-19 is like World War III, but there hasn't been a shot fired. And I think she's right. It's like World War III, and the whole world is affected. And I've no idea when this thing is going to last, but I'll tell you one thing, it's not going to be over by March, right? It's unlikely to be over by the end of 2021. In fact, somebody else on that call the other evening suggested that the tourism industry, the airline industry could be the latter part of this decade before it begins to recover fully. So we're talking 2025, 2026 and thereafter. And, you know, I have to say that I believe that is probable. That is probable. I mean, this thing is not going to go away overnight. Somebody ran the numbers on inoculation or vaccination here in Ireland, and there are 5 million people on the island of Ireland, all to get two injections each, and at a projected rate of 40,000 injections per week, which we're not even achieving at this moment in time. That's 250 weeks worth of injections. That's 5 years, folks. That's 5 years before the island of Ireland, at current projections, is going to be vaccinated from this horrible virus. So why am I bringing apparently bad news to you, more bad news as we enter 2021? Doesn't make sense, except I think it does make sense. I think we have to accept the reality of where we are today. We have to accept the fact that we are experiencing COVID from wherever it is we're experiencing COVID today. And we're experiencing COVID from where we're experiencing COVID today based on decisions we've made in the past, for better or for worse. And I propose that we need to begin to think about our circumstances, and we need to begin to effect change where possible. I mean, it's almost a year since Ireland was locked down first time, almost a year. And a question I've got to ask you, you need to ask yourself is, have you done anything different in this last year to make this lockdown any better? Or did you just expect that the world would go back to normal and your life would go back to normal? It's never going to go back to normal. It's never going to go back to the way it was pre-2020. That's my absolute belief. So if you're not doing anything different now as we enter 21 that you were doing as we entered 2020, I think you're on the wrong track. I need to put that out there. I think you're on the wrong track. And I think I'm going to ask you to consider this time next year. Consider this time next year and consider that the effects of COVID will still be largely felt. So you have this next year living with COVID to make some changes for you, for your life, for your family. And the real question is, what changes are you going to make? I don't know what your situation is. I hope it's reasonable. But I would propose to you that if you think deeply about it, the likelihood is you've got more to be grateful for than you have to feel sorry for yourself for. the likelihood is that you've got more to be grateful for than you have things to feel sorry about. And I recommend perhaps that you start by simply asking yourself, what have you got to be grateful for? So I'm going to give you some homework to do for this next week, given the reality of COVID. COVID is not going to go away anytime soon. So given the reality of COVID, I'm going to give you a little bit of homework to do. And I want you to get a pen and paper out, please. And I want you to write down 3 things that you are grateful for now. 3 things that you are grateful for today. Then I want you to write down 2 things that you'd like to change about your situation by this time next year. That's 3 things you're grateful for today, 2 things that you'd like to change about your situation by this time next year, and then 1 thing that you're going to act upon in this next week. 3 things you're grateful for, 2 things you're going to change in the next year, and 1 thing, probably one of those 2 things you're going to take a step towards in this next week. Write it down, please. And then go about your daily life and remember to remain grateful for wherever it is your situation, because it could always be worse. And be aware of those around you. Be aware that there are many, many, many people out there who are significantly worse off than you and I. I was out walking earlier today and I bumped into a friend who's a special needs teacher, and we were talking, obviously socially distanced, but we were talking about the reality that some people are living in family situations where there's a very ill child or a child with special needs. I'll tell you folks, I feel terribly sorry for anybody who finds themselves in that situation, because it's beyond their control. It's the ovarian lottery, as Warren Buffett would call it, the ovarian lottery. And you know, it got me thinking about how blessed really I am. I've got 3 wonderfully healthy adult children, but there are some people out there in dire straits, absolutely dire straits. And they were in dire straits regardless of COVID. So just let's be aware that there are people out there in far worse situations than you and I. And perhaps if you're feeling a little bit down at the moment, that thought alone will help you identify 3 things that you're grateful for today. So to reiterate your homework, 3 things you're grateful for today, 2 things you'd like to change about your situation in this next 12 months, and 1 thing you're going to take a step towards in this next 7 days. And I wish you well. And thank you for joining me for this week's Coffee with Colm. I hope and trust as ever you got something from it. Please consider what's been shared here today and apply it into your thinking for this next week. And then very importantly, come back next week and we share another coffee together, and I'll ruminate on some other aspect of life and business. Between now and then, get yourself some great coffee, get some fresh air, get some R&R. If you spend too much time online meeting others, well then please take some time alone. If you spend too much time alone, well then find a way, go online, go out for a walk, nod at somebody, make sure you interact with some other human being. And then when the time is right, and only when the time is right, get your head back in the game, get organized for the week ahead, get stuck in, make next week count. Remember, 3 things to be grateful for, 2 things you want to affect change in this next 12 months, and 1 thing you're going to affect change in next week. And I'll see you here this time next week for another Coffee with Colm. Slot you. I love great coffee. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.